Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're cracking open the Encyclopedia of Atheism. And look, I know what you might be thinking. An encyclopedia sounds a bit dry, right? But this source is different. It maps a massive intellectual landscape that's so often just boiled down to a single word. I mean, think about it. For most of us, the word atheism brings up a pretty simple, straightforward idea. It's basically a no to the big question of God's existence. And yeah, on a basic level, that's not wrong. But what if that simple definition is just the first page of a much, much bigger story? You see, a book like the Encyclopedia of Atheism exists precisely because that one little no is actually the start of a long and absolutely fascinating journey of human thought. That's because it's not just one idea. Today, we're diving into this encyclopedia because it maps out that entire landscape for us. It really shows that this isn't just a story about unbelief, but about a rich, centuries-long tradition of human inquiry. Honestly, reading it isn't just about understanding atheism. It's about understanding a huge part of our own intellectual history, and that's why it's such an amazing resource. So let's jump right into this landscape of ideas. The encyclopedia makes it clear that this whole tradition is built on some really powerful concepts, not just simple rejection. One of the biggest philosophical ideas it gets into is something called projection theory. Now, this theory was most famously laid out by Ludwig Feuerbach back in the 19th century. The core idea is that the concept of God really comes from us, from our own desires and longings. It's like we take all the best parts of humanity, our capacity for love, our reason, our will, and we create this perfect idealized version, which we then call God and worship. But here's the kicker, and this is what's so cool about this slide, this idea. It is ancient. The encyclopedia traces it all the way back to early Greek philosophy. Xenophon saw this crystal clear over 2,000 years ago. Our gods tend to look a whole lot like us. It just goes to show you people have been questioning the very origins of belief for a long, long time. And, these weren't just abstract ideas floating around in old books. The encyclopedia brings this history to life through these incredible portraits of fascinating and often pretty controversial figures who actually championed these ideas. Just take this story about the poet Percy Bysshe Shelley. This little anecdote shows you the very real risks people took. Getting kicked out of Oxford back then, that was a serious, life-altering thing. It wasn't just some abstract debate for him. It was a huge personal and professional sacrifice for an idea he believed in. And then you've got this other key figure the encyclopedia highlights, the American orator Robert Ingersoll. In the late 1800s, he took these arguments and brought them to massive public audiences. His whole message was really about human agency and our own responsibility for making the world better. So here's the crucial point, and something the encyclopedia really drives home. Ingersoll's work shows that free thought was never just about one thing. He connected it to everything else going on: American reform, progress, individuality. He challenged biblical inerrancy, that's the idea that the Bible has zero errors, but he also fought for civil rights and secular education. He showed that these ideas have real, profound social consequences. And of course, the encyclopedia details how towering figures like Thomas Jefferson laid the actual legal and cultural groundwork for modern American secularism. His work wasn't just philosophical, it was architectural. He literally helped build the structures that protect our freedom of conscience today, creating a society where the very ideas we're talking about could actually take root and flourish. And this right here is a huge reason why a resource like the Encyclopedia of Atheism is so valuable. It shows you how these ideas and the people who fought for them didn't just change a few minds, they fundamentally reshaped society itself. You can actually trace this progression across centuries. It was a long, often difficult journey. This timeline is kind of a highlight reel, showing how philosophical arguments for things like tolerance and reason were slowly, piece by piece, translated into actual laws and public policy, shaping the modern world we all live in. Okay, so that's the history. But what about now? How does this tradition of inquiry actually continue today? Well, one of the most fascinating parts of the encyclopedia is how it breaks down the modern analytical tools we use to evaluate claims about the world. It's like a toolkit for clear thinking. First up is a total classic, Occam's razor. You've probably heard of it. The principle is super simple. Don't make things more complicated than they need to be. The simplest explanation that fits the facts, that's usually the best place to start. Next, we've got something called inference to the best explanation. Now, this one is cool. It frames debates not as a simple yes or no, but as a comparison. It asks, okay, which theory explains more of the data we have with the least amount of special pleading? It's all about weighing which hypothesis best fits all the evidence on the table. And this one is absolutely crucial. Seriously. Bayesian confirmation theory, and don't let the fancy name fool you, is basically a model for how we learn. It shows how repeated tests and new evidence can take us from just a hunch to a really well-supported, reliable conclusion. You could almost call it the engine of scientific progress. So, when you put all these tools together, what do you get? Well, as the Encyclopedia lays it all out, you get this incredibly powerful and disciplined framework for inquiry. It's a method where claims about the world are tested against evidence and logic, not just accepted on faith. This is the intellectual engine of the whole secular tradition, and the Encyclopedia gives you a detailed user's manual for it. And that brings us right back to today. You see, the Encyclopedia of Atheism isn't just a history book. Its real value is showing us that this is an ongoing conversation, one that leaves us with some really vital questions for our own time. And this question right here, this just nails the real takeaway. The conversation has moved so far beyond just asking if God exists. The truly interesting and challenging questions today are about how we all build meaning, community, and ethics in a secular age. And a source like the Encyclopedia of Atheism provides the deep historical and philosophical context we need to even start answering that. The question isn't just about what we don't believe anymore, it's about what we build in its place.